Oh boy, oh boy. Okay. All right, because apparently this is the announcement. This is the spoiler, folks. Gonna give you guys a heads up. I didn't even put in the title this time. We have a bit of a lame ass spoiler. So I was wrong. It won't be Mercedes Moné. Unfortunately, it won't be Ronda Rousey. Tony Khan's little secret signing has been revealed. If you don't want to watch the pay-per-view or give a shit about anything in regards to that, let me tell you what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna read this article for you and then we'll just blow it up like that. Okay, so in a recent update from Andrew Zarian, gotta build this up, folks, on the Mat Man podcast, he shared information he received suggesting that Will Ospreay might be the individual in question. If confirmed, this would represent a significant acquisition for AEW, especially considering Ospreay's reported interest from WWE, further adding to the intrigue surrounding this impending announcement. And I quote from Andrew Zarian, "I was told Will Ospreay. That is a big deal. Huge deal because WWE was actively pursuing him. We'll make the fans happy this year. We'll make the fans happy. Wrestler of the year." So this is not 100% confirmed, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Whenever you see news like this that's being leaked, it's usually the truth. Now, you guys may hate a Dave Meltzer, you guys may hate someone like a Sean Ross Sapp. I know I do, but that's for more so political reasons, right? As far as doing their jobs correctly, 9 times out of 10, their opinions are absolute shit, but their news reporting 90% of the time is pretty on point. It is. You guys can sit here and try to pretend that it isn't, but it is. But I'll say again, I'll give a caveat, and I'll say that there's a small chance that it might not be Will Ospreay. It might be somebody else. Who knows? Maybe Tony Khan may see this, and maybe he might try to swerve us. Maybe this might not even be the legitimate, accurate information. It's just, when you hear information like this, 9 times out of 10, it's usually the case. And I got some thoughts about this because I just made a video a couple of weeks ago talking about Will Ospreay possibly signing with AEW. Now, I didn't know he was going to be the one that was going to be revealed, just simply because I figure his contract wasn't supposed to run out until February, right? I think it's February. Now, granted, he could have negotiated an out clause, or hell, again, there could be a situation where maybe Andrew Zarian doesn't have his information correct. It is kind of weird that New Japan Pro Wrestling would just let him leave his contract like that. I mean, maybe it could be a situation where there's just so much goodwill between both parties. Maybe it could be a situation where AEW works with New Japan Pro Wrestling anyway, so it doesn't really mean anything that they just let him negotiate themselves out of his contract. Okay, whatever the case may be, whatever the scenario may be, I mean, in the end of the day, it's not as if it isn't a big pickup for AEW. I'm not suggesting that, because as they said, it's not as if WWE wasn't chasing after him either. My whole thing is, I wish Tony Khan would just stop it with the announcements. Like, really sit back for a second and really ask yourselves, is this something that's really that big of an announcement? It's not as if we haven't seen Will Ospreay wrestle already for AEW 1,000,001 times, right? It's not as if we ever seen Will Ospreay actively participate on AEW television. And some fans may be like, "Oh, Devontae, you're being fickle right now." First off, I'm not fickle because I don't give a shit about Will Ospreay regardless. I will admit that he's a talented person, but he's not really my cup of tea. He's not really a guy that I really look forward to as far as seeing wrestling, because again, I care more about character than I do about in-ring action. And I've seen enough of the bullshit Young Bucks style of wrestling that I really don't give a fuck about Will Ospreay. But is this really something that you would necessarily call like a really, really huge announcement in regards to like getting people to want to tune into the pay-per-view, right? Like, I'll give you an example for Survivor Series. If WWE were to come out and say something along the lines of, we got a huge announcement for Survivor Series coming in Chicago, you will automatically assume it's going to be something along the lines of CM Punk, right? And that might be the case. Now imagine if they built this up and built this up and built this up, because we're going into Chicago after all, and they've been dropping all these hints, and then it doesn't end up being CM Punk, it ends up being an NXT person. Like, let's just say, for an example, I don't know, like a Carmelo Hayes, for an example. It's not as if that's a bad thing, but it's not as if we haven't seen Carmelo wrestle on WWE television. He resides over in NXT. That's the same way how I would feel about a Will Ospreay legitimately being the so-called signee. He's wrestled so much on AEW that it's not really worth a damn to say that this is something that's really, really special. For all intents and purposes, he could have just came out, or this could have just been some event that just would have happened on the pay-per-view in itself. You can't get people hyped up, and you can't keep trying to pull this bullshit on people who are... And you know, I'll say this. Before I continue on with this, let me say this also. I'm not here to say that Tony Khan did something wrong, in the sense that it's not as if he didn't explicitly say in his tweet that this was specifically for AEW fans. So maybe I should be mad at myself for getting my hopes up. So, because in the end of the day, it's not as if he didn't outright say this is for AEW fans. But I was hoping when he says AEW fans, it was somewhat of a misnomer. Like, okay, maybe you're just talking in general with wrestling fans, because, I mean, why would you just selectively say your AEW fan base? And you know what, to a certain degree, I was kind of hoping that it was going to be Mercedes Moné, just simply because it could just be something that's actually fucking huge, a big deal, something worth talking about in the end of the day. This is not something that's worth talking about. Maybe amongst the AEW faithful, and even then, I don't even think the AEW, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're a hardcore AEW mark sitting out there, I'm not saying that Will Ospreay isn't a healthy addition to the AEW roster, but would you agree if I were to say that you are somewhat disappointed by the announcement also? Like, is this something that you were actually looking forward to hear? Or were you more so looking towards somebody who was going to be respected regardless of the AEW fans? I know he put AEW fans, so his announcement actually does fit the narrative, which it does in the end of the day. I'm not here to knock that. It's just that, I don't know, I personally find this to be a very shitty announcement. You guys may have a different opinion. That's fine. We're all entitled to our own opinions. But if you're going to build this up in the manner of how you built it up, I would expect someone to be, you know, a little bit more prominent, if you will. I'm not the world's biggest Sasha Banks fan, but that would have been something that would have fit the criteria. But hey, whatever, man. Maybe I'm just the only person sitting back in the room right now looking at this and saying to myself, well, okay, cool, I'll get back to jacking off right now. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Just a short little video. I just want to discuss this. Let me know your I actually want to get a conversation started about this, honestly. Like, really sit back and ask yourselves, was this really that big of a fucking deal? Let me say this one more time, because I have to repeat myself over and over again, because you have people out there in the audience who just, for some reason, will just ignore everything that I say. So I said it in the beginning, I said it in the middle, and I'll say it in the end one more time. It's not to say that Will Ospreay isn't that big of a deal. I'm just saying that if you're going to build it up, maybe it should be someone who hasn't been presented on AEW television for the past couple of years at this point. That's all I'm saying, man. This could have been something that could have been announced on the pay-per-view, but let me get some of your thoughts and let me get some of your opinions. Maybe I'm the only one sitting right now just in my own thoughts saying to myself, wow, really? This is 2023, Will Ospreay wrestling for your championship? Maybe if he was wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling more on a consistent basis and he didn't show up on AEW, then maybe, or hell, if Will Ospreay would have showed up on WWE television, then yeah, that'd be a big fucking deal, only from the sense that, okay, cool, he's actually in a completely different environment wrestling people who are not of the norm. But I get it. Will Ospreay probably wants to go back and forth for New Japan Pro Wrestling. I wouldn't even be surprised if that's why they let him out of his contract, if this news happens to be confirmed. Again, repeating that one more time also, this is not confirmed. This is just scuttlebutt presented to you by some of the people in, you know, the newsletters. And then, who knows, maybe someone will come out later on today and they'll be like, oh no, Andrew Zarian is wrong, he hasn't confirmed this with anybody, this is nothing more than bullshit. Will Ospreay may even go out himself and debunk all this. I don't know. We can only find out when we check out to the show tomorrow, and I'll definitely be there to report whether or not this happens to be the case. It is what it is, man. I mean, that's my fault for getting my hopes all up in the air. And you know, it's AEW. I mean, disappointment should have been something that should have been expected, if you will. But yeah, let me get up out of here. Talk amongst each other in the comment section below. As always, my name is Devontae, and I'll be catching you fine folks later. Deuces, P, Ice.